Yeah, this is a good question. What does it mean duality? So dissolving duality or seeing emptiness non-dualistically. So duality, let me explain this on from three angles. Duality versus non-duality from three angles. One, from the point of view of the Vedantic tradition. The second, from the point of view of the Chittamatra tradition. And third, from the point of view of the Madhyamika tradition, and particularly Prasangika Madhyamika tradition. First, the Vedantic tradition, non-duality. Okay, so while all these three traditions speak about non-duality, but how you understand non-duality is very different. Duality, we should not disrupt the meaning of duality. Duality meaning two, dual, two. What two? Subject and object. I'm seeing the flower is the object, and I am seeing it, I'm the subject. So there's the subject and the object. Object is not the subject, subject is not the object. So there are two things. That is duality. Now according to Vedantic tradition, so the seer is the Atman. And what you see is the Maya. All those things that you see, they are all just Maya. And then through your spiritual realization, when you come to realize that all what you are interacting with, they're all just Maya, then it is metaphorically speaking, it is as though like the whole diversity of the Maya, they all dissolve into the Atman. So now there is no duality of the Maya and the Atman, no duality of subject and object. Everything simply dissolves into one thing, right? With respect to your perception. With respect to others' perception, still Maya and Atman, the Maya is still there. The duality is still there. But with respect to your perception, then the Maya simply dissolves to be Maya. They dissolve into the ultimate reality, which is the Atman. Okay. This says, so from this understanding, then the connotation of the duality or the connotation of non-duality, it makes total sense. Because now at that point, there's no object with which you interact as an object. So it is just whether you call it object or subject, it's just one thing. Two is dissolved. That is non-duality from the Vedantic tradition point of view. And particularly in relation to the two truths, which the Vedantic tradition explains, seems to be very close with the Buddhist concept of the two truths. So when you go to a certain height, only then from there you see the distance, you see the difference. Whereas if you are just down, way down, and then you are looking for at the top, so these 2 points, look, my two hands, they are going closer and as though like they're converging. And then at a certain point you reach there, and if you're down there, you will see that these two are joined. In actuality, they are not joined. So say this is Vedantic tradition, this is Buddhist tradition, and then you, beneath from there, if you look at the two traditions, they seem like they're converging. And then at that point, from way down, you will see that these two are joining. In actuality, they are not joined. So behind this point, they go like this. It's like this. So behind this point, then they go into such a big difference. But at a certain point, you see that these two are very similar to the extent that you might say that, oh, this is exactly identical. Converging, right? Okay. Now this is the understanding of non-duality from the Vedantic tradition. Now from the point of view of
non-duality, which is posited by Shankaracharya.
Exactly. This is what I'm explaining according to Shankaracharya.
There's also the other dimension where there is the Paramatman, which is the divine, and you are the Atman. And when you so realize that you merge into the Paramatman.
This is exactly what I'm saying. You know, Atman and the Paramatman. Paramatman is like the main source. And then the individual Atmans, they merge with the Paramatman. along with all the other mayas. Right? This is understanding. Okay. Now what is the second version? Chittamatra. According to Chittamatra, the duality, non-duality or the duality. First we have to understand what duality is. Say, we came from outside or we came from inside. We came from outside into Chogorsumling Center. We came from outside. So now the duality from Chittamatra point of view, the duality is in the form of outside and inside. Outside is not the inside. Inside is not outside. There are two things. That is the duality. And what is that inside? From Chittamatra point of view, inside is the mind. And all other things which are non-mind, they are the outside. So there's a duality between the inside and outside. That is duality. Now, as you reach the level of the non-duality according to Chittamatra, what happens is that you realize that all what you see as outside, all what you see as external, they are simply your mental fabrication. It's simply your mental deception. There is no external as such. What is really existent is just internal. It's just mind. So at that point of the realization, then you see that there is no duality between the external and the internal. There is no duality, right? So mind as the subject and external objects as the external or the object. When you reach that level of understanding, that all externality that you see, they are simply the deceptive perception of your own mind. When you reach that level, then we see that you realize that externality dissolves, in the sense that you realize that there's no more externality, it's just inside, the internal, which is the mind, the subject. So again, the subject, everything dissolves into the subject. So the subject-object duality dissolves. So that is understanding of the non-duality from the point of view of Chittamatra. Now from the point of view of what? Madhyamika and particularly Prasangika, there the duality is as what we explained according to Advaita Vedanta. Right? Say the subject and the object. Subject and the object. Now, unlike what Advaita Vedanta says, according to Madhyamika, there's no one source as such. There's no one source as such to which all others merge. There's no one source as such. In fact, from the Prasanga point of view, sourcelessness is the ultimate reality. Sourcelessness is the ultimate reality. If you could remember what we said last time, not seeing anything on the ultimate domain is seeing the ultimate, seeing the supreme. Not seeing anything on the ultimate domain is seeing the supreme. This is what we said, right? So from that point of view, we see that say in a loose sense, there's object, and then you are the subject. There's the object-subject duality. And then when you realize the understanding that what I'm seeing as objectively real there, what I'm seeing as myself, as the objectively real, as the subject, this is all deceptive. Then in that experience of the ultimate domain, then not only the Maya dissolves, Maya and everything dissolves. So there is no basis left at all. There is no basis left at all for the duality. For the duality, there should be two things. According to Advaita Vedanta, there's one thing left. The duality dissolves because the pair is gone. For the pair, there should be two things. Only one thing is left, the main source, right, is left, and the other side is gone. So therefore, because there's only one, there's no duality. Whereas according to the Madhyamika Buddhist Madhyamika philosophy, the duality for the pair, both sides dissolve. Both sides dissolves, so therefore there is no duality. That is according to Madhyamika tradition. But then the question is, how is it that both sides dissolve? How can we be convinced that each of them, both sides, how is it that we can be convinced that they are dissolved? So this is what is not to be taken blindly, what is not to be taken on belief, it must be realized through rational reasoning. Right? This is the difference. Okay. Now another thing I like to share with you here is particularly the difference between the Chittamatra understanding and the Madhyamika understanding. This is so important. Chittamata's understanding of the non-duality and the Madhyamika's understanding of non-duality. Madhyamika in the context of Prasangika in particular. For Chittamatra, it is more like same. It is more like the mirror and the image in the mirror. Mirror is your mind, and the image in the mirror is all the objects we see as external. How many of you have banged against a mirror? Okay, Rov, you banged against the mirror?
Oh, banged against mirror.
You want to break the mirror? Huh? No, I'm talking about mirror, not the glass. Why did you bang against the mirror? You want to break it? You are angry about that person? And Shanti? You are angry with the hotel or whatever? Why did you break the mirror? Why did you go to break the mirror?
No, by accident. That's it.
Accident, yeah. So what made you have the accident? What made you have the accident? What made you have the accident? Because you thought that what you were seeing there is really there beyond the point of the mirror. You don't see that as a mirror. Whatever reflection that you see in the mirror, you see them as so real, right? And you think that there's a space where you can walk further beyond this point. Then you go beyond and then you bang against the mirror, right? Okay, so in short, you saw whatever image that you saw in the mirror, you saw them to be so real, and so external from the mirror, right? So, if this is happening to the mirror, then our mind is like the mirror, and all what we are seeing, they are like the reflection on the mirror of the mind. So, is there now, after banging, and then you come out, if the mirror is not broken, then if you look at the mirror, then you realize that what is there is not the external object, this is a mirror. You realize that, right? Once you realize that, then you will see that, oh, these are not the real objects, these are the reflections in the mirror. Likewise, our mind is like a mirror, and all what we are seeing, they are like the reflections in your own mind. And yet, we see them as totally separate from our mind. This is a deception. Because of this deception, people bang against the mirror, right? They have some problems. Likewise, because of this deception, seeing things as so external, then we are trapped in all problems. So, in short, according to Chittamatra, how things exist and how your mind exists is simply like the mirror, your mind like the mirror, and all other things like the reflection in the mirror. So now tell me, the mirror and the reflection in the mirror, can they be separated? They cannot be separated. So you cannot say that this is the image, this is the mirror. You cannot separate the two. Because you cannot separate the two, they are seen as one. There is no duality. This is according to Chittamatra. Now according to Madhyamika, a particular Prasangika Madhyamika, all what we interact, the things that exist, according to Prasangika Madhyamika, they do exist external reality. Keep that in mind. Chittamatra rejects external reality, but according to the highest Buddhist school, external reality exists. And yet everything is created, everything is imputed by our own mind. Okay, can you resolve this problem? Everything is what your subjective mind creates, one.
Dependentizing.
Then number two is that things exist externally. Chitta says that no, things are all coming from your mind, therefore there is no external reality, right? It's very convincing for us. Very convincing. Things are all coming from your mind, therefore there is no external reality. It's very convincing. Whereas Madhyamika, they are so bold enough to say something very different. And perhaps for many people could be controversial even. That on the one hand saying that everything is coming from your mind. Everything is projected by your mind. At the same time they say that things exist as external. Externality is there. So how can you resolve this problem? Okay. Is there any one person who will attempt to give the answer? Anyone?
I think that there are inherently exist.
No, the point is that...
Imputed by the mind.
No, what I'm saying is that people who are beginners or someone who is a beginner should be convinced of what you are saying. Right? Okay, what I'm saying is that on the one hand they say that there is no inherent existence. Everything is coming from your mind. On the other hand, they say that externality is there. So how can you resolve this paradox? When you say that everything is coming from your mind, everything is coming from the mind, then it's all subjective. If there is no subject, if everything is subjective, then it's not objective. If it is not objective, how can they be external? This is the question. Yes, Shanti?
Somehow the argument of dependent origination should resolve this.
So finally the understanding of interdependency should resolve this problem. Very good. Very good. Okay, then the question is how? How does this understanding of interdependency or dependent origination will help us solve this problem? But then that should be the one which has to be employed, understanding of which will solve our problem. Yes, Rolf?
So they are mutually dependent on each other. The object is dependent on subject and subject is dependent on the object.
So if the object is dependent on subject, then how can they be the externality?
It seems like there's a dualism over there. Then if there is an externality and
then there's a duality there. If the duality is there, how can you speak about the non-duality according to Madhyamika, right? Okay, this is Rolf gives the answer and he saw his own problem. Right? Duality is there.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Yes?
One can give an example of the cards which we make a building out of cards.
Yes.
So what we do is we take two cards and then we keep them like this, then two cards like this, and then we make a building out of it. Now these two cards, they cannot stand. They can stand only when one card is and other card is there. Both are there.
So these two are mutually supporting.
Yeah, they're mutually. Yeah.
If one breaks, the other one automatically
Yeah.
falls.
So then there is no building. So one and other both dependent on each other.
That's fine.
They
But
create
then
building.
how does this help you to understand that there is externality?
Yeah. So that building is not there when both are not there.
Yes.
But when both are there, there is a building. Huh?
Yes. So
there is externality of the building.
how?
But with individual card, there is no externality of the building.
If things are coming from purely from the subject, how can they be the object? How can they be the externality? I understand this. So with these two things, when these two are together, then the building is there. And if one is not working, other will fall, right? Then there's no building, right? So in what way this analogy works to understand that everything is purely subjective, still things do exist as external. In what way it helps?
It helps because the building has to be recognized that there is a building.
Yes.
It cannot be negated that there is no building. There is a building. But then when we see each of the cards, there is no building. When we see the cards individually, there is no building.
Meaning separately?
Yes.
Yes, I understand it.
Okay. So if we see, so in order to get the building is the projection made by some component. So that way you can see that building exists, but it actually doesn't exist.
Okay, Ranagaru, what you do is that I'll tell you one thing. After this class or tomorrow, you try to meet someone and tell him that this is a question asked in the class, right? And I give this answer. See if you understand it. You try to explain it, and finally the original question is that answered? And if that, wow, it's very much, and then you're on the right track. Whereas if the other person, no, I can't do. What you gave, what you said, answer that you gave is the analogy, right? So finally, this analogy should be used to understand the main, answer the main question. So how do you relate this analogy to the main question? So keep in mind, the main question is, according to Madhyamika, everything is subjectively imputed. There's nothing from the object. One. Now, the seemingly contradictory statement, while everything is coming from the subjective mind, there still exists external reality. If there exists external reality, how can that be subjectively real? How not objectively real? This is question. Yes, Saket?
But if there was no external reality, there would be nothing for you to posit anything on. There is no basis for the subject. It's necessary that there is something for us to posit a name on, posit a reasoning on, posit something. There has to be something that existed before.
But in the dream, there is no external reality.
It is external to the mind.
In the dream, there is no external reality.
So of course, it is external to the mind.
No, in the dream.
No. It's external to the mind, like not.
The dream is the example which is given by the which is given by the Chittamatras to convince Prasangikas that things can exist even without externality. And the Madhyamikas, they ask Chittamatras, what example do you have? Then example that they give is the dream. So for that we have to study Madhyamika Avatar. Madhyamika Avatar, there's all these discussions, dialogues, debates going between the Chittamatra school and the Prasangika school, right? So this is the area which we have to take for granted that you understand it. That the dream is the example where you see things as the external as things as externally real. But then when you wake up, we see that, oh, this is just my mind. There's no externality in the dream. It's just my mind in the dream, right? This is, no, don't just say thing. What I'm saying,
Consciousness is dream.
that just listen. No, what I'm saying is that example Chittamadra gave, say first Chittamadra says that everything is coming from the mind. So therefore there is no external reality. You're getting it?
Yes.
Then the Prasangikas, they come. Acharya Chandragiti, particularly Acharya Chandragiti comes. Then he said, okay, if you tell me that things are all coming from your mind and there is no external reality, right? And things do exist, but things are empty of external reality. First of all, give me an example. Give me an example which can convince me that, okay, that's true. Mind is there, external seems to be so real, but it's deceptive. What example do you have? This is the question precisely asked by Chittamatra, by Acharya Chandragiti to the Chittamatras. Then the Chittamatra, in the text itself, Acharya Chandragiti quoted the Chittamatra's answer that dream is the example. And only if you understand the dream so well, that in the dream, you get the impression that everything's so real outside there, external meaning outside. Outside there, the moment you wake up, you are disillusioned with your own dream. Nothing was there, it was just my dream. There's no external thing there. It was all just my mind in the dream. So this is what is accepted both by Chittamatras and the Madhyamikas, right? With that in mind, then Madhyamikas, they give further rejection with regard to the reasonings they give, with regard to the mind saying that there is no external reality but the mind exists truly. So then the Madhyamika, they reject the mind existing truly on the basis of this example. They did not reject that what you had in the dream, what you saw in the dream is not external, as said by Chittamatra. Madhyamika accepted that, right? So we have to study Madhyamika Avatar so well. Madhyamika Avatar is amazingly brilliant text to tease apart, to give you such a cutting-edge understanding of the Prasangika view. Okay, so now let me give you one example of how the Prasangika would give the answer, while everything is coming from the mind, but still there is external reality, right? Okay, let me give you an analogy which I've already given you twice, which I already said twice in the class, I remember, in this very time. So, the movie projector and the projected movie. Where is the projected movie? Here. Where is the movie projector? Behind you, right? So, the projected movie, is that the projector? What you are seeing, the movie that you are watching, is that the projector? Movie projector, is that? That is not the movie projector. Movie projector is behind you and you are looking in front of you. So the movie is seen in front of you. So there you see that there is a gap in distance. You see the gap? Projector and the movie. Movie projector and the movie. Do you see a gap in distance? Gap in distance is known as external reality. Gap in distance. When there's gap in terms of distance, the mirror and the reflection in the mirror, is there a gap in distance? There's no gap in distance. You see the gap in distance, that is distortion. That is mistaken. Right? That is a misconception. Whereas should there be a gap between the distance, there is a gap in terms of distance between the subject and the object, that is known as externality. That is known as external reality. Right? So, according to Prasangika, the movie that you are watching, that is projected by the projector behind you. So the projector and the projector is your subject, and the movie that you're watching is like the object. So this movie is not coming from the screen, it is coming from the projector. This movie is coming from the projector, but the movie is not there on the projector, it is on the screen. So the movie and the projector of this movie, these two, they are separated by distance. So that is known as externality of the movie. And yet, external is there. At the same time, this object which, in this context, which is a movie, that is not coming from the screen. It is coming from where? From the projector. So therefore, everything is projected by a mind. At the same time, there is externality. This is Prasangika's answer. Right? Analogy that Prasangikas give. So likewise, finally, after rejecting objective existence, how we see things as so real, when you come to realize that nothing is, how I see things as so real, it is deceptive. Once you see the emptiness, once you get the experience of the emptiness, then slowly see how you can see everything as simply coming from your mind. So this understanding, how things come to existence by the power of my mind, and still things do exist as external, internal, you should be able to bring about the harmony of the functionality of the external and internal world with your mind as the subject. So that part is something which we need to work on after understanding the emptiness. Right? Okay. Functionality is that if you are hungry, by eating food, though your hunger disappears. When you're thirsty, you drink water, you don't be exposed in the heat. You drink water and the thirst will disappear. So this is the functionality. So the functionality and emptiness, there is no contradiction. Before understanding emptiness, people tend to get the impression that emptiness and functionality, these two are dichotomous. These two are contradictory. Right? Okay, yes?